Hello, Hazard Master Reviews here, and let's get started with this. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Next to probably Mario, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, this was probably the movie I was most excited to see this year. Consider, and it's been a long wait for this film. Yeah, we've had a few other things. Obviously, we've seen the Guardian to the Galaxy in Infinity War and Endgame. We had the Love and Thunder for very brief, honestly. And of course, we had the holiday special last year, but this film has taken a long time to come out. Let's be fair. Had James Gunn not been fired back in early 2019 over a controversial tweet, I reckon this would have come out probably 2021 at the earliest. Considering the pandemic and everything. But and of course, this will be the last iteration of this version of the Guardians and the end of James Gunn's time with Marvel before he fully commit as he's now fully in charge of DC, making decisions for the future. Whether or not fans will agree with some. I'm not here to discuss what the decisions over over DC films, honestly, gone now in charge. I just wait and see till after well, basically when things get started, or when the Superman movie comes out in 2025. Then we'll see how things go. But yeah, the end of the line for the Guardians. And what is the premise? So, picking off after the events of the holiday special, the Guardians have now bought Nowhere, which was the location of the Collector in the first film, which was torched by Thanos and Infinity War. Continue on. So the Guardians now set up base on Nowhere, and while still protecting the galaxy, are doing their best to protect try and relax and settle down a bit. But the peace is shattered when Rocket is attacked by someone by a mercenary known as Adam Warlock, who, as you know, was teased at the end of Volume 2. Adam, along with his people, are working for the High Evolutionary, the man who created Rocket and basically, well, made him into what he is by, animal cruelty, basically. Rocket's life is pretty much Rocket's on the verge of death, and being unable to operate on him, Star-Lord leads the Guardians on out to find Rocket's file in order to have a chance of reviving him. With the assistance of the 2014 Gamora, who we saw back in the Endgame, Peter Quill along the Guardians, which of course is Peter Quill, um, Gamora now, but of course she's not technically part of it. Nebula, Mantis, Drax, and Groot all go off to save their friend's life while being pursued by Adam Warlock and the Sovereign, and of course the High Evolutionary who wants Rocket back in order to, perfect what he's making with life. So yeah, so basically this, to be fair, we knew this was going to come. We knew that from the very beginning, even before he got fired. James Gunn's intention was, I think, even the writer's intention was that this would be Rocket's story revealed to everyone. And I think I will say the best thing in it, one of my favorite thing in it, is everything involving Rocket and his backstory. It is done very well, honestly. We see this in a lot of flashbacks of Rocket's past, and well, some are handled a bit differently. Like some flashback moments are handled better, like how we enter the flashbacks of the past of Rocket. Everything involving his past and what we learn is really heartbreaking. And you understand why Rocket is the way he is, and when you began off in the films, and how much he has grown over the events of the previous films, the holiday special, and being alone, being the only one, the only being on his own without his friends during the events of Endgame, with obviously with the exception of Nebula. In fact, pretty much this whole trilogy shows how far the Guardians have come since they began. Obviously, I've mentioned Rocket, but you also see Nebula of how far she's come from being a villain in the first film to being now a full-fledged hero. And you also see the growth is also with Mantis, who's trying to act more independent. Quill Star Lord's interesting. It's that you see his growth and but it's going to be a bit different. I'll explain with not trying not to run away. I think from how Rocket's able to when he does come back, when when he does get healed, basically, he inspires Quill to stop running away from his past, which is obviously Earth and everything to do with the death of his mother. The likes of Drax is also the evolution of Drax and Groot are harder to see, but you can see it, and especially with what Drax is meant to be rather than who he aims to be. And Gamora, it's interesting to see how this 2014 version of Gamora, how she's now working for the Ravagers. And yeah, obviously she doesn't have any connection with anyone besides a brief interaction with Nebula, uh, but who is technically her sister, but not her main sister. You have to watch Endgame again. But yeah, it's interesting to see this different side of Gamora. The other two Guardians that we met that came into the fray over 2022 with Love and Thunder and the Holiday Special, Kraglin and Cosmo, don't get much to do. Kraglin at the very least does have an arc, which is continuing on from the events of the end of Volume 2 with him trying to master Yondu's arrow, which yeah makes sense. Cosmo's is definitely the weakest, and I will say Cosmo really didn't feel it right in this. But there is to fair say that in the near future they can improve her. Um, but yeah, I love everything with Rocket's backstory. I love a lot of the visual effects. The CGI is handled great in this. I think it would. I think this film definitely looks better than Quantumania, but you know, never really thought the effects were bad at Quantumania. Of course, the acting's great. Every one of these actors, we all know these characters and do great. Continue on. Even the new ones do surprisingly well. My favorite actors, definitely in my favorite performances. I love Karen Gillan as Nebula. She is and Bradley Cooper as Rocket. They're great. I think this is probably my favorite performance from Dave Bautista as Drax. Honestly, I think he definitely did well with this with his final performance. More on that later. Yeah, I love the action scenes are great. The hallway fight at the end is pretty good. Yeah, and a lot of people are loving it. Yeah, I love the use of licensed music, especially at the end. I'm not going to say how the ending goes, but we're used to seeing music, that was before that Quill heard before he went and got abducted by the Ravagers. But then at the end, sorry, they play a song that's from the 2010s, and it actually feels like a proper end to this iteration of the Guardians that we're now starting to enter a new phase with them. This is the end of the old stuff in with the new, but yeah, the I will say the ending is very heartwarming, and you do end with a bit of a. It's it's sad that this is the end of this iteration, but there is you do know that there is still something else to come, in the near future. I'm just saying. But yeah, let's get on to some of the problems I do have because there are some issues. First off, Adam Warlock. Yeah, he's underdeveloped. It's not. I think we're all expecting more of a role from him because he's basically exposition. I mean, Will Porter does a good job as Adam, and I do see a future within him, the MCU as he grows. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think he is a powerful character and will no doubt play a role in future films, especially with the. I mean, while this film, it should be worth noting that while this film doesn't really necessarily gives exposition to the future of Multiverse Saga and what they could do against Kang, but it's going to be there. It is still a building part, is what Kevin Feige is saying, and I think Adam Warlock will definitely be one of the ones who will definitely play a role. But yeah, he is underdeveloped. Will Potter does a good job, but yeah, it could have been better. And the High Evolutionary now, well, I think he's definitely a threatening villain, and you do feel, and he is performed well. But yeah, he is a very similar villain to some of the other ones and the other MCU villains. I mean, but yeah, well, he's performed well, and he's definitely threatening because of what he's done to Rocket. He's not necessarily eh, okay. He's better than Ronan, but he's not ego level. And considering his plot, as we know, it's the basic plot for most Marvel villains. Yeah, I mean, the only difference is he's trying to, as he quotes it, perfect humanity, and by doing his horrific experiments. So yeah, while threatening, he's not perfect. I think it's also worth knowing that a lot of people have been, especially internet critics I've seen, have been over have been pointing out the amount of animal cruelty when it comes to the flashbacks of Rocket's past. And well, okay, there's only one shot that I could feel like, yeah, that could go a bit too far, but I honestly didn't see have any problem with it. I don't think it was as bad as what I was expecting. 'Cause I don't like animal cruelty too, but I don't know. I never quite got it with this. I mean, I think there are worse films when it comes to animal cruelty. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, I don't think it's that severe. Although, yet again, it's just my personal taste. I think there are. So I'll keep in mind that some people might have a lower tolerance. But basically, like any animal cruelty they see is just bad for them. I'm not going to point flack at that, but yeah, I'm just saying I didn't get affected by anything. I wasn't disturbed by anything. Well, maybe one moment I could think, yeah, that could be kind of close, but yeah, it's a hot topic. It's worth your shot. I think it's also worth knowing that, well, with the way the film opens, is that Star-Lord still, Peter Quill still feeling the loss of Gamora, of his Gamora from Infinity War, and he's now basically a drunken mess, which leads to Rocket getting almost killed. Um, I don't know. That it didn't really feel. We should have had more explanation over it. I mean, because it looked like at the end of the holiday special, after he finds out that Mantis is his half sister, um, it looked like he was getting better. But I don't know. Could have been handled better. You know. And then I guess we should go on to it. The ending. Now, here's the thing. I put in the title. Spoiler alert. Let's get on with the ending. Now, as I already said, I love the ending. So Um, I'll basically say just stop right here. I'll give you my full score right now, so you can just stop and not watch my spoilers. But yeah, my score is an 8 out of 10 has stars. So now, if you're gonna continue on, keep going. But yeah, the ending. I do agree it's heartwarming, but it left me confused. Um, because Big Shark spoiler, no one dies. No one dies at all. It's just I think everyone was expecting someone to die at the end of this film. At least one of the main Guardians. And there are close shots of Rocket and Star-Lord getting killed. And, I think Nebula has a few shots of like Drax as well. But yeah, again, no one surprisingly dies. And immediately I was confused because, you got, I think, and I think it's also worth knowing that with certain actors' comments that this is the end for them, it kind of felt like it was going to happen. But with that said, I don't think it's actually it's only bad as you first notice it. When you think about it, that's where you can see things kind of adding up and how it could still work. Because I mean, look, the Guardians are still around at the end. I mean, it's only Rocket and Groot remaining in the team with now Craggle and Cosmo as full-time members and Adam Warlock and a child that they rescue at the end, with an alien that Adam's adopted, as new team members. Quill goes back to Earth. Mantis goes on her own. The 2014 Gamora remains with the Ravagers, and Drax and Nebula fully set up base on Nowhere in retirement. Um, but yeah, so let's start off by saying this. In terms of the future, this is the end I definitely see for Zoe Saldana I mean for Gamora and Drax, because Zoe Saldana and Dave Bautista have said they're done, and I can definitely see that they could be written. And I remember they'll probably be written out like Pepper Potts has been written out with Gwyneth Paltrow confirming she's not coming back as in that role. And you've also got Mantis. I can also see get written out as well. I was thinking that Star Lord's going to get written out, honestly, but uh, Chris Pratt said he wants to continue, and yeah, I can definitely see that. He can definitely be maybe next time we see him, he'll be fully joining the Avengers in Kang Dynasty. dynasty. Um, as the others, Karen Gillian has said she wants to continue, and I can definitely see her coming back for for Avengers 5 and 6. She is a former member after all. Same thing with Rocket, Groot as well. So yeah, I think this is definitely the end of the road for Gamora, Drax, and Mantis, in my view. But Star Lord, Nebula, Rocket, and Groot definitely I can see continuing on. But only time will tell what will come up in the future. Yeah, so it'll take time, you know. But with that said, I've still really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. In fact, well, I do see this film as probably definitely the best MCU product since um it's definitely good. It's definitely a great ending for this trilogy. Whether on uh, and you know, it's sort of similar to in my view to Wakanda Forever and No Way Home, where you see an ending when you see this sort of I do see a bit of an emotional impact of those two films, though handled a bit differently. Yeah, it's definitely a solid ending, and you know there is still more. It's the end of this iteration, but we do know there's still more to come. Some of these characters will return. You know, it's worth knowing that this isn't the end. It's just the end. This isn't a full-on goodbye, but more like the end of this iteration, and there's still more to come with some of these characters. So, but I mean, so I'm giving this an 8 out of 10 has stars. If you didn't skip out after after I mentioned it, after I went it with spoilers, but yeah, this is a solid film. Definitely worth it. Definitely see it. You know, don't worry if you're afraid that this is going to be like Quantum Mania. It's not. It. I think it's close to. It's not quite the greatness, but it's definitely great. You know, it's not perfect, but great. You know, it's almost like this much of a gap. But with that said, I definitely think it's worth watching because, well, especially concerning the future. I mean, with the shows at the moment, I mean, I think there's still. I mean, at the moment, we only know Secret Invasion, Loki season 2 are coming out this year. Potential, hopefully, maybe What If season 2. Please bring that out. I want that. But as for the films, to be fair, I mean, well, they all. Well, there's no doubt they could all be successful. I think most people are pretty much just the casual fans of uh, most Marvel fans, considering the quality, are probably just waiting for Deadpool 3. I should mention there is a swear. They do drop do drop the first F bomb in the MCU in this film, but come on, you know you're going to be hearing that a lot more when we get Deadpool 3. But yeah, I think you know, yeah, I think we need this film needed to be a success with critics, and considering that you know some of the next couple upcoming films could be people are going to be more wary over because they involve because either they're new properties, sequels to films that you know fans weren't necessarily a huge fan over, or are basically a new starring a new version of a character, you know, stuff like that. And unsure if they can lead a film on like how they can lead a TV series. But you know, it's you can see whether this why this film needs to be a success. You know, needs to be a success. You know, because there will be some uncertainty in the future. But yeah, as I said, I like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think it's pretty good. Not perfect, but it's still a great movie, you know? 8 out of 10 hand stars. So what's next? I'm gonna read comic books for a bit because I got a request, and I think I mentioned that in the Air film review, that this will be a special request involving a Batman movie. And my clue is think think future, think beyond, think the return of the Clown Prince of Crime. There you go. But in the meantime, this is Hazard from Hazard Reviews out, and I shall see you for my next video. Ciao!